Hey folks, it's Marvin Cash, the host of The Articulate Fly, and we're here with our inaugural Texas Hill Country Fishing Report with Greg Welander. Greg, how's it going?
Well, hey Marvin, it's going awesome. Sun's out today. It's a nice day in the 70s, so I'm excited to talk about fishing.
Absolutely, and so folks, we're recording this on March 23rd, and Greg, what does the weather and the fishing look like down there in the Hill Country?
Well, it's definitely looking good. We've got two fly fishing opportunities right now in the Texas Hill Country, both the white bass run, and we've got the largemouth bass up on the area lakes. So why don't we talk about the white bass run first?
You bet.
So all the tributaries in all of our lakes and reservoirs have white bass running up the rivers right now. Three of the more popular ones, of course, the Colorado River above Lake Buchanan, which is accessible out there at the Colorado Bend State Park. And we've got the Pedernales River, which is above Lake Travis, and that's accessible through Reimer's Ranch, which is a Travis County park. And the third one is the Llano River above Lake LBJ. And the Llano River is generally the later or the last of the white bass run. And folks can access that up there on the slab area. But we've had some rain this weekend, so you brought up weather. We just finished a 3-day period of rain, which, out at our house, which is northwest of Austin, up in the Hill Country, we had 3 inches of rain over a 72-hour period. So we've got water right now running in the rivers. We almost have a little bit too much water. So the Colorado River above Lake Buchanan just crested at about 2,800 CFS. That was today, Monday, the 23rd, and that was out of San Saba. So there's a good flow of water coming into Lake Buchanan. The Pedernales River yesterday crested at around 2,000 CFS out in Fredericksburg. So there's a ton of water coming down towards Lake Travis, going right into Reimers. And the Llano River crested up in Llano at almost 7,000 CFS. And that's crazy. That's a lot of water coming into LBJ. So all that was needed. I'm not going to say white bass fishing is what we need to be doing today, but by the weekend, all the water will have subsided, and we'll be looking at great white bass run because over the last 2 weeks, the white bass have been running. However, we've been kind of in a drought period. We've had, just a little bit of water coming out of the rivers. However, we still have had the white bass in those rivers. So it looks like it's just going to be getting better.
Well, that's great. Any tips and techniques for folks to chase white bass this weekend?
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about the flies and techniques. For white bass fishing, it's a must to go out there with a sinking line, okay? You want a sinking line about 130 to 150 grain lead core sinking line for your 5 and 6 weights. And then because the white bass are down towards the bottom of the river, okay? So you got to get your fly down to them. Even though you're fishing in maybe 3-4 feet of water, it's kind of hard to get at them with a floating line. And then your fly selection is pretty simple, the Clouser minnow. Good old Bob Clouser just really came out with a good fly many years ago, and we've kind of improvised on that fly a little bit here in the Hill Country. I like to kind of call them the Hill Country Clousers. So they're a little bit smaller, typically kind of like maybe a size 8. And for some of you fly tires out there, if you look at maybe a Tiemco 5262 size 8, you're looking at a very small hook. So we're trying to match the hatch with the river minnows. One of the flies that I tie and I do really well with is the springback minnow. And that's, tied on the 5262 size 8. But for some of the flies that are in various shops, just look at the smaller Clousers. Go with the size 6 or size 8 Clousers. Kind of olive over white, gray over white, chartreuse over white. But then on a cloudy day, look at some of your darker colors and, like purple and black. Definitely some off-color water in some cloudy days. And then the last fly choice, I would say, is the cypret minnow, which is also another Texas pattern that came from Charlie Seipert up there by the Lake Whitney area. And I generally use a size 6 or size 8 on the Seiperts and kind of just stay with the white Seipert minnow.
Got it. And I imagine probably fishing that on a shorter leader, right? With probably like a non-slip loop knot or something like that.
Yes, Marvin, I'm glad you brought that up. That's one thing when you are using a sinking line, go with a 3-foot leader, 3 to 5 foot. 5 foot is the longest leader I would ever use, but I try to keep it in that, closer to that 3 foot in length. And I like fluorocarbon for that because, it is less, it doesn't float. It sinks a lot quicker. It's not as visible to the fish, especially when we're fishing some of the clearer streams. I'm really a believer in the fluorocarbon. But a non-slip loop knot to tie that fly on, always, that gives your fly a lot more movement.
Very cool. And so what are you seeing on the largemouth front?
Well, I've been fishing up on Lake Travis, which is one of the Highland lakes. But the pattern's pretty consistent over all 7 of our Highland lakes right now. We're catching largemouth, we're catching Guadalupe bass. We're going into a time where we've got, pre-spawn going on. We've got fish that are spawning, and we've even got fish that have already come off the spawn and they're on the post-spawn. So a post-spawn fish is really, the fish I'm looking for because they're hungry. They're looking to eat. Early last week, my client had caught a 21-inch 5-pound largemouth on the fly, and that fish was real close to the bank. It was on a deeper bank. We're kind of looking at rocky shorelines where deep water is close by, and the fish they're active. We're catching Guadalupe bass. We even caught some black crappie earlier last week. So you just never know what's going to be on that other end of that fly when you set the hook. Just to give you an example of how good fishing is right now, soft-shelled turtle. Okay, my client caught a soft-shelled turtle, and it wasn't just a snag. The soft-shelled turtle actually ate the fly. I mean, I had to get my pliers out and pull a fly out of this turtle's mouth, and it was about a nice little, about a 16-inch, 20-inch circumference of diameter of that little soft-shelled turtle. So it was kind of cool to see something different come to the net.
Very cool. And are they looking up, or are you still basically fishing streamers and nymphs?
Well, right now we are throwing streamers. Okay, shad patterns. Anything that's shaddy looking is working. Some of my favorites are the Bushwhacker. The Pete's Perfection is another one, and Matt Bennett's Lunch Money in a shad color. Matt is a local tire here in Austin, and he does some really cool work. And the Lunch Money is definitely a good fly to throw at these bass. And as far as fly rods, I prefer 6 to 8 weights. Especially 7 and 8 weights would be my number one choice, because when you start catching these bigger fish, you've got to be able to slow them down and put some wood to them. You don't want them to go and wrap up on the nearby dock or some of the trees that are the brush that's in the water. So yeah, and the fish are up on the banks. Top water season, that's going to be another month. Okay, as we get into April and into March. So I'm still sticking with streamers.
Well, that's great. And folks, remember, we love questions on the Articulate Fly. If you send us a question, just go to the Articulate Fly Facebook page. If we use your question on the report, I'll send you some Articulate Fly swag, and Greg and I are going to put our heads together and come up with some great drawing we're going to have at the end of the season for everybody who's had a question read on the report. And Greg, before I let you hop, why don't you let folks know where they can find you on the internet so they can talk fishing with you and maybe book a guide trip with you?
Well, yeah, sure. You can go to www.upstreamonthefly.com, and my contact info is there. You can shoot me an email, give me a call. And as far as social media, you can catch me out on Facebook and Instagram. Search for Upstream on the Fly. And that's what my handle is there on both Facebook and Instagram. And I have my name below that as well, so you'll know you found me. So I look forward to hearing from some of you guys.
That's awesome, folks. And we're going to keep bringing these reports to you every 2 weeks. So please subscribe in the podcatcher of your choice so you don't miss one. And we've got a lot of great interviews with people like Greg and other folks in the fly fishing world you can check out too on your way to and from the water. Well, listen, folks, enjoy the weather. Get out there, catch a few. Tight lines, everybody. Tight lines, Greg.
Thank you, Marvin.